Hey everybody, welcome. And I will be going live in just a second on YouTube. So let me just get all that set up. And then we're going to have Dr. Tom Giammatteo on hopefully in a little bit to to talk about all things healing. Where this show is Miracles, Magic, and Coffee. And the question is, how do you finally get over autoimmune conditions and anxiety conditions, even if you've already tried pretty much everything else? That's the question. And this show is all about the answers. And we'll be having Tom on in a little bit and see which direction it goes. I have a feeling I know which way we're going with this show today, but I want to check in with him and then we'll be starting in a little bit. So if you're watching on YouTube, then go ahead and in the comments, whoops, that didn't work. Let's try this again. Um, Leave a comment of what kind of condition you're dealing with or what you would like life to look like, or whether it's health stuff or business stuff or relationship stuff. What we found is it's all connected: mind, body, spirit, and also health and happiness and relationships and business, and everything is connected. And sometimes we're working on helping somebody overcome a fear that's in the way of their business, and their headaches go away. Or we're working on somebody's headaches, which I've done with my sister, headaches and neck and back pain with her, and they have money show up. So it's all connected. We don't know absolutely. Let me just start this over again because it's not getting on YouTube. We don't know absolutely how. It says it's on live on YouTube. Let me go look in YouTube. Let's go take a look. But yeah, it's all connected. And the question is, how do we how do we get what we want in life? So let me just let me go get this. I see Tom is on, so we'll pull him up in just a second. Let's go to your channel. Yep, it looks like we're on. Okay, so we are on. Let me pull that up because I need to put this on our link share. Okay, hang on one second. Tom, hang in there. Okay, so there that is on YouTube. This is going to go on the Miracles, Magic, and Coffee show link. So there we go. Okay, so let's go get Tom. Okay.
Hi, Ralph.
Hey, Tom. Sorry about that. I was having technical difficulties getting on YouTube. So, but we're all set. Everything is going now. So, how's it going?
Good. It's been a long time.
I know. Lots of cool stuff going on. But yeah, it's been a while since we connected. So good to see you. How's
Yeah.
Connecticut?
We had some snow, we had some heat, and now we're back to getting cold again.
Ah, we
And
got lots of snow on the mountain here. So we don't have snow at the bay, but our friends are skiing today. Mount Baker's got a lot of snow, so it's turning winter. So this is cool. So I was, I had an idea to run by you, but I'm also very open to, like, what would you like to talk about, or what do you see? There's so much stuff going on right now in the world. It's like very scary for some people, and then there's always the stuff about helping people with their health, and then there's the integrated manual therapy and getting the world to know about this stuff.
Yeah.
What do you see? What would you like to do? Or I can tell you what I'm thinking too. I'll tell you that in a bit, or whatever you want.
Well, it's been a rough journey for a lot of people out there, and I just want to reiterate that IMT and Ralph, we do have some answers to help people stay better and healthier. So on that venue, I just want to review very quickly with people some of the things that we found, and even numbers going up. And I've had more and more students, they're one step away from meeting COVID people, like their clients are getting more positive tested for COVID. So a positive test doesn't mean that you're going to possibly demonstrate any of the symptoms, or you may have a little sniffle. And to have the full-blown COVID, I was talking to one of our my mentors, Dr. Joe Feingold, and she's an emergency room doc at Columbia. And she was still saying that a lot of this, you have to be extra careful if you have a comorbidity. So what are some of the comorbidities is, if you're on any medication, I would consider you being comorbid. High blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetic, overweight. And we were having a discussion that people that are overweight should really start to figure out how they can change their diet and get better and healthier. That's one of the things that's in our empowerment, but the news has never said lose weight or figure out why you got your diabetes or figure out why you had high blood pressure. And I'm sure we're talking to the people like-minded here, but please, if you're on medication, there's another way to get off of it, and just don't take another pill to suffice something else. And that's one of the most dangerous pieces. So if you need help, we do great weight loss here, but you have to want to change. And you can't say, well, I want my Twinkies. I want my Oreo cookies. It can kill your life at this point. So part two is we do have some great herbs that I just want to quickly talk about. One of them is called Immune Regen, and it really helps the immune system in the thymus. And it was developed in the era of in 2000, 2001 to help people get better. And I was on with a group of clinicians yesterday night, and it was about 50 of us, and we're all saying everybody that's been on our protocols has been relatively unscathed. I have one practitioner that's tested positive, but she has a nose sniffle and a sore neck. And so we can make this be just like a flu season type of thing. So Immune Regen is the herbal product that I recommend, and anybody over 75 pounds should be taking 2 a day of that piece. Part two is I have been teaching and running around the country and the world, and I just upgrade our Colloidal Silver to Silver Spray 2.0, and it's about 500 times more powerful than our original silver. And it holds 55 parts per million in it. And I just made the switch with the formulation, and we started bringing the bottles in this week. And colloidal silver is an excellent antimicrobial and antiviral, where you suspend silver in liquid, and it's been shown for the immune system to be supportive at the same time. So I'm recommending 1 or 2 sprays in the mouth, and anything that you've touched, you could spray with it, and it kills 99% of all the bacteria. We've been using that for 15 years, like on airplanes, tray tables, remote controls in hotel rooms. I would almost say if you had like a gas station toilet seat, if you sprayed it and wiped it down, you'd be like 95% bacteria free on that piece at the same.
Wow, that's cool. And, And can they get that right from imtwellnesscenter.com, or do they have to call you?
They can call imtwellnesscenter.com, but I'm going to give you the telephone number for Monday if you want to place a call. We're on holiday time now, which is 304-914-4772. And my person who runs the shipping department is named Dee. So 304-914-4772.
Order it. Okay.
Yeah, and they can order directly from there. And she's a very pleasant person to work with. Great. And the last one is on the energetic fields, and it's called Immune Support Spray 2020. And it is on the homeopathic energetic medicine of a no-sode, which means that in homeopathy, it is teaching the body how to resist the pathogen. So it's not labeled on the bottle because Food and Drug Administrations don't like to say those pieces, but we call it Immune Support Spray 2020. And one spray a day of that puts up this big force field for people. And if you get symptoms, you do 1 an hour, and that seems to make things disappear very quickly.
That's awesome.
So people may know of like the company Boron or Highland. They make homeopathic remedies, and Boron has a thing called Oceanum, which they use for flu prevention. So this is on that same field of no-sode therapy there.
Awesome. Wow, that's some good stuff. And then
Yeah.
the GI Regen, how does that fit into things?
Well, that's also a great one. It helps with food poisoning, leaky gut. It helps bring back your microbial field. So GI Regen is the best, one of the early formulas that we invented. We send people all around the world traveling, and we use it for jet lag and other microbial pathogens, and that's all herbal. It contains tribulus, cranberry, ashwagandha, uva ursi, and another one called xylase. But all together, that brings up people's energy and helps the good bacteria stay in the gut much easier.
Cool. Is that something that helps with if somebody gets a little gluten, if they're off of gluten, or is that
Yep, we use it in that phase. So cranberry, everybody knows that cleans up bladder infections. Uva ursi is another anti-parasitic. Ashwagandha is an Indian herb known for its support of the adrenals and brings depleted adrenals up, but it also has antimicrobial properties that it kills a lot of bad bugs. Xylase is the digestive enzyme that breaks down gluten in the system.
yeah.
And then the tribulus kills Salmonella, E. coli, and botulism, which are really bad food poisonings. And it also helps helps infections in the prostate and like bladder infections too. So it's our first line that we give that to people, then they can start to absorb more food. So truthfully, the GI Regen would be my first step, and then putting on the Immune Regen would be step 2. And the Immune Regen has all the antiviral properties to keep the immune system healthy.
That's cool. Really cool. So if somebody doesn't live in Connecticut or they don't live in the Pacific Northwest to see me, and they they can always talk to us, work with me, work with you
Yep.
Remotely, but over the internet. But if they just got this stuff, if they say they're dealing with something chronic, some sort of chronic condition, and they got this bit of stuff and
Yeah.
And did nothing else, what would you expect? I mean, I know results are not guaranteed, and everybody's
Yeah.
different, and we can't presume to know who's on the call or what else they're doing with their diet. But
Right. So I offer anybody that wants to call in and wants a 15-minute free consultation on how do I use the things I just purchased. I'll be happy to figure out where your body is and how healthy it is. So I got married a second time after my wife passed away 5 years ago, and my wife now, Anastasia, is from Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So as my first gift that I went over with, I just gave her parents some GI Regen, and her father's arthritis went away in about 3 to 4 weeks, and her mother's blood pressure just dropped with just getting the bacteria in the gut stabilized. And then so now mom's down to 1 medication for her blood pressure and everything else, where she was at 5 to 6, and dad's arthritis is almost completely gone, also with better nutrition, better food groups. So it's just the tip of the iceberg of what we call functional medicine or good eating.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like I've always harped on those elimination diets of no gluten, no peanuts, no sugar, no almonds. And sometimes people feel that that's too scary, and I step away and say, okay, let's do GI Regen for a month, and I can get strong enough, and you start feeling better, then you can let go of the other foods, because all those other things are crutches. When we feel bad, they make us feel a little bit better, but then they make us feel worse at the end of it. So when we're craving all the sugar, the gluten, the almonds, and the peanuts, it's because we're trying to compensate for a lot of pains, and all those will numb us up at
Yeah. And
many
so the
different
GI
levels.
Regen in general is like 1 or 2 a day.
Usually for somebody over 75 pounds, it's 1 in the morning, 1 at night.
Okay.
And in about a month, they're feeling like half their fatigue is gone most of the time. They've been having better bowel movements with that and the piece. And we even use it as for pets. So a lot of the dogs, even little terriers, the 15-pound dogs, they can take 1 pill a day if they're eating a lot of junk off the floor in the woods. But I recommend it for pets once a week, just to help get their
just once a week, 1 pill once a week.
Yeah, but if your dog's having a problem, they can take it every day. I used to have a 20-pound pug, and pugs are notorious of like eating anything that walks on the floor. And so sometimes when she'd feel like she's upset and had diarrhea, we'd give her 1 a day or 2 a day for a couple days, and that would settle down. And so like preventatively, it's like once a week for them.
That's cool. That's a nice, simple system. So many people come to us, and I know to you, with a bag full of supplements that all these different practitioners have given them, and we can test it and see what's useful. And a lot of times you put that whole bag on them and test it, and it's like, oh my God, that's not so useful.
Yeah.
So I know Sharon used to talk about that a bit, and the idea that this whole program, it's kind of connected, right? Like you've tested people over many years to see that these things work well together.
Yeah, and a lot of people are looking for pills that cure their ailments. And Ralph, when we went to physical therapy school, our nutrition was, there was nothing for nutrition, right? It was like have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and eat your vegetables was the nutrition that we really learned in physical therapy school. And I'm not too impressed with the graduates of doctors of physical therapy have a really good handle on nutrition. And you using Edgar Casey, and what's the other person you use? For Price, right?
Oh, Weston A. Price. Yeah, Weston A. Price.
So those were 2 people that really got you back into eating foods during your season, nothing packaged, and people actually thrive on those pieces. I feel that supplements are useful, but the way IMT, integrative manual therapy, approached it was we would go and see maybe our liver was hurt, maybe our lungs were hurt, or maybe our muscles were hurt, and what's going to make them feel better. And we found our nutrition to help repair the organs we just made healthier. Where a lot of nutrition is, well, take vitamin C because it does this to your immune system. Take this. And herbals can be looked at from a lot of people as just as much as taking another pill, an aspirin or a Tylenol. But the study of the IMT wellness products, where we actually put our hands on these tissues, like I put my hand on your heart, I put my hand on your lungs, and we actually felt the liver get stronger under our fingertips. It actually had a bigger breath and things like that. So IMTs, herbals, are 95% all just plant-based and tissue-based. They're not synthesized man-made things. And they're really focused on getting to the core of the problem. Okay?
Yeah, and you can test it yourself. Like people can test it. I know we've done this with clients to convince them about certain things to get off of certain products. And we used to have a loaf of bread, regular bread from the grocery store with all the preservatives and everything, but loaf of bread, and we kept it in our office. And for over a year, it stayed soft. But we would have people test their range of motion, and then we would touch the bread to them, and then they got tighter just from touching the bread, which is whether that blows your mind or you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's a way to tell what something does to the body. And so, it's kind of nice when everything works well together and the body goes, thank you.
Everything we designed in the IMT wellness line were to help different structures to get better. And when somebody would come and say, this is the best fish oil or omega-3 oil for our body, we would actually go to the brain and put our hands on top of the skull. And we'd actually, if it was really good fish oil, it'd actually make the fat of the brain get thicker. And if it made the nervous system fat get better, then it would probably work for the whole body. So every week, even this year, I've had 4 or 5 companies come in and say, we've done this to this and we've done that to that, and this is the best oil. And I just put my hand on my head and I grab the bottle, and if it doesn't fluff it up, it's not going to go to where I want it to go.
And it's so interesting that it puffs up instantly. It's not like you even put it inside your body and then felt the effect as it got digested. There's an information that the body has that can read it. It's kind of, isn't that wild?
Well, there's lots of research on it. That's part of your distant healing that we can do. We all have these extra fields in our body and influences that we can perceive. It's just not taught in Western philosophy, but it's taught in acupuncture, it's taught in Ayurvedic medicines. And it's something that got washed out of our learning and our perception.
I've got a really cool picture that I got from my Qigong master, Mington. I'll just show his picture. There's Mington. CHINTR.com. I think this is from Alex Gray, copyrighted by Alex Gray, but I can at least show it. The body, like there's the body, and then there's the energetic versions of the body. It's like really interesting how, who knows what reality is really like. So that's,
well, Ralph, a lot of cultures have brought those up. And, we talk in this culture about a mother's instinct, like she can tell when her kid gets hurt for long distances. So just because it's not in our traditional Western medicine science doesn't mean it's not true.
Yep. I had a client that he was in a car wreck, a bad car wreck way over in Europe somewhere. And then he was back in San Diego and I was working on it. And he told me the story of when he got hurt, his mom woke up in the middle of the night and said, I've got a call. And she knew that something had happened. So yeah, what is that kind of stuff? That's in that world of information medicine and how your body will tell you, you can read it. This is good for the body. This is not good for the body. And that's really cool.
So generally, if you want a short note of what we just talked about, if people over that weigh more than 75 pounds took 2 immune regen or GI regen a day, they'd be pretty safe without having reaction. And if they took a spray of silver spray in their mouth every day and a spray of immune, that's a good foundation of starting to recover and heal in their body.
The phone number is 304-914-4772 if you want to talk to Dee and get some of that, or imtwellnesscenter.com and talk to Tom for a few minutes and see if it's the right fit. That would be really good. And one thing that Jen said, she was talking to her mom, who's a nurse, and Jen was saying, there's like the Pasteur theory, but back then, and it was like the germ theory, like, there's these things called germs and we got to protect ourselves from germs. But there was another guy, and I forgot his name, but because we didn't go with his system, but there was another guy at the time that was saying, well, there's this terrain theory, like we have to make sure that the host, the body, is healthy, and then bugs don't bother the body. Like, there might be bugs and stuff, and there is, but there was a terrain theory, like let's get the terrain, the body healthy so that we don't have to protect ourselves from every little virus out there. And I like to think of it like I believe in God, and that, we talk about the body as a temple. And so there's like different ways to think about healing and like, keep getting yourself healthy so that maybe we don't have to protect ourselves from every little thing. And your supplements, how do they fit into that? Because you talked about other supplements sometimes can be treated just like they're drugs, like, I'm taking this to like stop this, but yours are different.
Well, they're 90% plant-based, which means they're growing and they're developing in the world, and they're not synthesized down to be out of Mother Nature. So there's a concept in nutrition called whole food therapy. And one of the biggest groups there is called Macrobiotic Dieting. And they teach traditional Eastern philosophies, like you eat for your season. So if you're up in Connecticut, we just had apples. They're all gone now. We're in the squashes and everything else. But with the winter, everything that's now like the pumpkin pies and the corn and the peas and everything are heating foods, and watermelon is not growing. So you wouldn't want to eat watermelon in New England during the winter time, because watermelon's a cooling food, and you're out in the middle of winter, you lose body heat because of those things at the same time. So really integrating those also philosophies into the product. And they were all tested with all the structures of using integrative manual therapy in forms of detoxification. And a lot of people who have worked with naturopaths will say, okay, now I have heavy metals, or I have mono, or I have herpes virus in my body, and we got to get it out. That's still an attack, instead of saying, what in my environment allowed me to express that more, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about that terrain theory. So, and there's many studies out there that says if you have an outdoor pet that comes in the house, that family group's immune system is much more strong than the person that's been very sterile. And the thing that scares me about the protections that we do need for COVID is that it's a little challenging with all the antimicrobial soaps and everything else. We are depleting our natural barriers every time we take the Purell and rub it on our hands at the same time.
Yeah.
So go roll around in some dirt would be my recommendations.
Yeah, dirt, earth. And do you know, I've heard different numbers, like if you counted up all the cells in your body, what percentage of us are humans, and what percentage of us are like bacteria, viruses, fungi? I've heard different numbers. Do you have a number for that?
It's 1/3 is human, and the other two, I'm just generally saying the microbes in your gut and on your skin. For cells, we're like 700 trillion cells. But what makes you, Ralph, and me, Tom, that live inside our skin are probably 1/3 of what the total number is, and all the microbes on the outside influence us. So we're supposed to have 7 layers of microbes in our gut. And every time you take an antibiotic, you just wipe that whole thing out. And the normal thing is I just went on antibiotics for 2 weeks, and the doctor said just get off of them, and then they get a yeast infection, because yeast is something that we should have in our diet, but it grows 10 times faster than the acidophilus and all the other microbes. So you can get a candida infection or a yeast infection just because you wiped out all the protective microbes that are supposed to be in your body.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Earth is disturbed. Our friends, we're going to go visit them today. They live out by the mountain. We get our water out there from deep in the ground, but they live on the Earth, and they're homesteaders, and so we talk to them a lot. And it's like, oh, you disturb the Earth, and then these kind of plants grow up first, and then these next kind of plants grow up next, and these next kind of plants grow up next. And a lot of those plants that grow up, people think of them as weeds, and so they cut them out again and try to destroy them, and they try to keep certain kinds, but not let these things that come up to protect the Earth. It's kind of like that, I guess, in the gut. It's like you wipe everything out, and what comes up next might not look like a good thing, but there's a process the body goes through to kind of restore everything.
Yeah, it's definitely we're trying to take a control of a system that is going to kick our butt.
Yeah.
Like even if you extrapolate global warming, or what happened with the hurricanes this year and the earthquakes this year and the fires this year, I think Mother Nature's getting a little pissed off that we're not hearing some of the signals sometimes.
Yeah, it's going to do its thing to get us back going. Yeah, and this is like a thing that there's different ways to live. There's the medical model, and and then there's this kind of way of working in harmony with the body and the earth, and so there's different ways to do it. So we're not saying just do our way, but it is kind of cool to maybe just everybody just relax and go, okay, there's different ways to do this, and maybe everybody doesn't have to follow this bubble up theory and protect yourself from every little thing. and let us all live our lives, because there's a way to ultimately we're responsible for ourselves, I think. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's okay if somebody wants to do all sorts of interventions, and it's okay if people want to live more like Tom and I live and follow that line. And so it's like, it's a choice. And it's like, if you look at the number of deaths from cancer and heart disease and diabetes, it's a pandemic. And so if we were thinking like that, it's like, well, why do we not just like turn off all fast food? We know that causes it. So, it's like that would save like millions of lives. So there's different ways to think of it, but I kind of like the idea of keeping everybody having a choice to like go a direction that feels right for them.
Yeah. So the death rate from tuberculosis is still 1.5 million a year.
Wow.
And heart disease. But the best thing we could do is figure out why we crave so much food, and to figure out, I'm not blaming people being overweight because they eat a lot of food and junk food. I find that at a certain point, the calories don't matter. It's the poisons that we received over time, be it pesticides, be it vaccinations, be it electrical magnetic fields, that our body decompensates. And so if you have what, I would consider somebody on the unhealthy side, if you pull off your socks and you still have ridges in your ankles from your socks 20 minutes after, that's called pitting edema. That is a health concern. The medical community doesn't ask those questions, don't want to look at them, because if it ain't broken, don't ask about it type of theory. But I feel the people that are obese enough that they don't have ankles anymore, and they don't have wrists, and they don't have neck, they're critically, they're out of balance. And if they tried to just cut their weight back or just tried to do exercise, it may not work 90% of the time, because it's really, we got to reboot the whole system and figure out it's pretty collapsed. So most of the people that I would say that are that overweight piece are needing some help. And I don't think the medical community's adapt enough to even figure that out, and how to do good nutrition.
Yeah, so that's awesome, because it's just a different way of thinking about it. And if you're on this show, you're probably in line with that somewhat. And I found this model and what Tom has and what we use as a way of thinking about the body and how to help it just feels right to us. So if it feels right to you, reach out to me or Tom, and we can point you in directions. And a lot of it is not real hard stuff to do. It's just different and real key things. So yeah, Tom's at imtwellnesscenter.com, and the phone number for the supplements is 304-914-4772. And I've actually got a little black sale thing going on for Black Friday. Because one of the pieces that we really dive deep into is to clear the mental, emotional stuff that's in the way of healing and abundance and that sort of thing. So I put together some key pieces from all of my online products of using one key piece of using a way to go inside and clear the mental, emotional stuff that's in the way. And you can get it through Friday at ralphhavens.com/abundance. So it's only $7. So I'm just giving it practically as a gift, but just to get people a way to go deep into that mental, emotional part of it all. And Tom has other ways to do that as well. So yeah, reach out to us if, because these are crazy times, and there's a lot of people talking what I think is kind of wild, like so scared of the world and people and everything. And if you want to do things in these kind of ways that Tom's been talking about, just reach out to us, Tom or me, and we'll point you in directions that feel right. And yeah, anything else you want to give people some hope for? I mean, to me, this is like a lot of hope. It's like, take a big breath, and we've been on the planet for 10,000 years or however long humans have been on, and we've handled a bunch of stuff. And let's just get ourselves centered and healthier, and we're all going to make it through. But anything else you want to say about anything?
Well, next week I'm going to revise my white paper on the COVID virus, which is going to be about 6-7 pages of information, and I'll hand it over to you next week.
Okay, and I'm in a class next week. I'm doing 4 days of my deep meditation in a class. It's online,
Okay.
in person. So I'm going to miss next Wednesday, but we'll go for the next one after that. But feel free to send it, and I'll send it out to everybody with your contact stuff. I'll send an email to everybody.
Yeah, so that everybody can use that too.
So let's get that to them next week or whenever.
Yeah, have a nice Thanksgiving holiday for all our U.S. people.
Yep. Tom, thank you for being on, man. It's always great. This was a really important one. So simple, powerful stuff. And yeah, I'll see you in a couple weeks, but email me and I'll send all that stuff out.
Okay, Ralph. Have a great day.
Have a great one, man. Bye.